Hey everybody, this week we're going to talk about Lenny, we're going to talk about Chicago, and of course we're going to talk about little girls smoking and drinking. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz...
Hey everybody, welcome back to Fosse, Verdon. Here on AfterBuzz TV, we are going to be talking about everything that happened in this episode. We're going to talk about Gwen trying to manipulate situations. We're going to talk about Fosse checking himself out of, I guess it's not rehab. I almost said rehab, but it's really a mental institution. We're also going to talk about Anne and her new influence on him, as well as what's going on at this cabin, as they put it. And we're also going to get into a little bit of this overworking situation. We have our special segment, of course, Fosse Fun Facts. We're going to find out what happened in this that is real and what happened that is maybe fictionalized for the television. And we're also going to have some news and gossip and, of course, our predictions on what's going to happen next week. But before we do all of that, let's introduce ourselves. I am your host, Bri Phipps, and to my left, I have not one, but two lovely ladies next to me. We have the Miss Kim Davey, who is our dance amazing person that is knowledgeable in everything in that area, as well as Chicago is her favorite musical, so she's probably pretty excited for this episode.
Very excited. Well, getting more excited as we're hopefully getting closer, but, you know, sitting here waiting with my seatbelt on, ready to rock and roll.
And we have the Miss Marvelous Amy Maestri back with us. She is a huge musical theater fan, and little known fact, she wishes she could have had the opportunity to sleep with Bob Fosse.
You know, I mean, bucket list. Past bucket list items.
No, Amy is our resident comedian here at AfterBuzz TV as well, so we'll have little fun just like that throughout the show for all of you. And of course, we're in the live chat, so if you have anything to say and want to comment along, I know Jazz usually is here with us, go ahead and chime in and we're going to shout you guys out. Let's start off with overall thoughts on this episode. Kim, you want to start it off?
Yes, I do. So, tonight's episode was really lovely. I felt, everything pretty much took place in one set, one area, where we were able to actually sit back with the characters, relax, hear some music, songs, dialogue. We weren't rushed around the countryside or around different time zones really either, were we? It was all just in one place, and we really got to know them on a deeper level and understand their relationships at a deeper level as well, I thought. So it was nice. It was relaxing for once, not like high stress. It was good. I liked it.
Yeah, I agree. It was nice to just kind of settle in with them for a little while. And I feel like episodes like this, they're always hit or miss for me when it's, you know, a weekend for the entire episode or just one night for the entire episode. And I feel like they did such a good job of really just moving it along so fluently.
It's true.
And it had, like you said, it had everything. We got to see a great performance from Michelle Williams. We got to know more about Anne. There was so many different storylines happening where tension was kind of building the whole time, but it was still just fun to watch too. So this was one of my favorites, I think, so far.
Nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. It was nice to just stay in one spot. And I kind of like episodes in television where they do this, where they bring all these characters together and force them into one area and you kind of have to interact. I also really, really loved just seeing Gwen and Bob, for majority of the episode at least, on more of a friendship level, and jesting with each other about their significant others. That was fun for me as well. So yeah, but let's start off with that. Let's start off with the reason why we're here, which is Joan died 3 months ago, and it's kind of like a congregation, like a tribute to her. They're doing something to bring everybody together and, I think have a little fun, probably take some, until Gwen got there at least, take Neil's mind off of the fact that he lost his wife. And I laughed a little bit when Gwen came in and the first thing, I'm like, they've been having fun this whole time. The first thing she does is like bring the mood way down. But what do you guys think of this? Like, have you ever experienced something like this where everyone kind of gets together and just has like a fun weekend, just kind of take people's minds off of everything like that?
Totally. I think recently, firstly, Joan was only 41, so she's so young. And I've had friends who have lost their mums, early, and then I know a girl in my year who recently died in the last 2 years. And it's just, when they're young, it's just so much more of a blow, isn't it? For whatever reason, it's just so hurtful, and there's so many people left behind, and people are unprepared for it. So it is so nice when, even tonight when Paddy was up just giving a little speech, and it's always nice to remember, and those that have lost appreciate those that have the balls to stand up when everyone's sad and talk about them, and then it's always nice to end it on a fun note, like he cracked a joke at the end. So it's so nice to remember people like this, and I think people should do more of this, celebrating their friends after they've died instead of being too scared to say anything to hurt feelings and all that kind of thing. We need more celebration. So it was cool to see that they were doing that, and they were all part of it as well. So I thought that was lovely.
Yeah, I think it was a nice mix of the two, because like you said, yeah, like Gwen kind of bringing it down a little bit, but also, I mean, that was one of her very, very close friends as well. So, I mean, she was kind of, grieving in her own right as well. But yeah, being able to get together and just celebrate the life that was, rather than, just being sad about it and getting out of the city to be able to do something like that. I recently was able to do the opposite and celebrate my best friend who just beat breast cancer.
Oh, that's good.
So we did the exact opposite, which thank God we did. But again, just being able to get together and have one of those like just weekends where you can celebrate whatever it is. Yeah. But yeah, it was interesting because it took a lot of levels throughout the weekend, but I think very therapeutic on different levels for everyone, just in their own way too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely something that I think should be done more in. I'm Irish, and in our culture,
potatoes, tree, 1, 2, 3.
In our culture, it is a celebration of life. Everyone does either a shot or a drink, depending on where you're at, to the person that has died, and then from then on, the rest of it is a celebration of the life of the person, rather than looking at it as someone has died and we're all sad.
Yeah.
So
it's the way to do it.
Yeah, and we started off with them having, I don't even know what this was with the lobster.
I know, the race.
I guess I don't know where the finish line was. I was hard to tell what this was, but they were doing some sort of something with the lobster.
I wanted to stamp animal cruelty all over that, particularly when she comes and picks them up and just goes, "Okay, I'm going to cook these." Then the poor things.
This actually reminded me of Amy Schumer. I'm reading her book right now. Finally, the girl with the lower back tattoo, and she talks about how she was like a riches to rags to riches story basically with her family, and she talked about how their family, as they were kids, would like race lobsters before they would cook them, and the same thing, she was just like looking back at it like we were monsters.
So that's a
what
thing.
were we doing? Apparently it's a thing.
Do not think that's a thing. That is an animal cruelty.
Only Amy Schumer and the Bob Fosse vacation crew. Those are the only.
That's random.
But we're here, and everybody's kind of congregated together, and we get to find out, him and Anne at this point are together. Mm-hmm. Last time we saw her, she was saying no to him once and dancing, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So they're together now, and then Gwen shows up with her boyfriend, which I wrote down his name, and I've already forgot it.
It's Ron.
Ron, thank you. So
Ronald.
He is one of those people. I am so sorry, but he's like, and they paint him that way in the show too, that he's just so like one dimension that he's easy to forget. Like, I'm sorry. Like, he seems really nice.
As a true story. I was reading something tonight, though I didn't write any notes about it, but basically saying that you'll probably have this in your bit later on, but his name was actually not Ron, and it wasn't the boy. Excuse me. The boyfriend's name was not Ron, and it's not depicted as he was, so they kind of made him up for this.
Kim's had so many different dialects going on.
I know. I get excited, overstimulated.
Can we get a tally going somewhere? Actually, we can keep it Irish every time we do a shot when she does another accent.
I love it. Let's do it.
All of a sudden, halfway through the show, me and Amy are just like...
And I'll be going, potato, tree. I love it.
But yeah, so we're getting also that mix in. So we're seeing that Bob and Gwen are on a little bit better terms than they have been in the past, although Bob doesn't seem to remember meeting Ron.
Oh, do you reckon? Or do you think he just wants to pretend that he doesn't?
It seemed pretty...
Genuine
that I think he was so messed up that night that I believe that he did not remember this man.
Yeah, when it kept going. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, no, he actually doesn't remember.
Yeah, because it was not even like, oh yeah. And like Gwen's like, you climbed into bed with us?
It took like 10 beats of like, no, remember? And then this happened. And then this happened.
And then you went to the mental hospital.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so I liked seeing them on this level. And even like being like, oh, like, she gets along with Nicole so well. Yeah, well, they're the same age. Well,
that was awesome.
Ron's in middle school, basically, or whatever he said back to him. I like that kind of like jesting that they're able to be at this level now with each other.
Well, are they though? Because things.
Well, at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
At this point, at least.
I feel like even credit to Sam Rockwell and Michelle Williams, the way that they played those scenes, you kind of found yourself, and to the writing too, you found yourself going like, oh yeah, this is nice, but also like you knew something else was coming. Yeah. You could still feel some sort of like underlying tension there, even though it wasn't actually there yet.
Yeah. Well, they're still there to play each other, right? They're both there getting what they want.
And we're still feeling the awkwardness, like when Gwen walks in, like you still have that awkwardness with her, like, how do I act? What do I do?
Yeah.
What is too much? You know, and even with Nicole, she's like, do I help her with her hair?
So the hair is okay, but puking is not, right? So,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, and we see a different side of Nicole this episode too. So Nicole's the only child on this vacation.
Yeah.
And
Poor thing.
she
be
really
poor
has,
too,
I mean,
though.
I've been there. Like when I was a kid, I used to go up to the cabin with my parents and their friends. And I had my sister, thankfully. But really, like, when you're on those kind of vacations, there's nothing really for children to be doing at night, at least.
That's when you're like, don't want kids anymore, do you? Like, that's a reason not to have children.
At night, it's like the parents go off there drinking, they're having their conversations with their adult friends, and then the kids are like, well, you know, during the day we were doing stuff that I could do, but now what do I do? And we saw that with Nicole. She was out swimming and hanging out with Anne, and then it's like, okay, now it's night, and there's nothing for me to do, and so we see her, you know, taking a sip of beer, trying out a cigarette, throwing up on the rug. You know, typical children stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because if it was like an Italian family or somewhere in Europe, I mean, the kids are drinking from a young age and smoking and stuff as well, and maybe that's the way that they are able to include them more so. But in American culture, it's like children do not drink until they're older, etc. So it seemed like, oh, bad girl, but that happens quite a lot in Europe.
I mean, it
Kids
happens
drinking.
in America too, but it is like you're in trouble if you get found out.
Yeah. If you come and
And
throw
you know,
up
to her
during the
credit,
dinner.
I almost wanted her to drink more and smoke less. Like one puff of cigarette. Because I just felt like so bad watching her smoke all this. I'm like, oh, that's not going to feel good in your throat.
Let's get into the meat of this episode. The smoking to drinking ratio that children should be doing.
It should be.
Well, I'm just saying, if she had had a couple sips of beer
The froth of the
and
beer
only,
too, like,
and only
stop it.
one puff of the cigarette, I don't think she would have felt as bad as
That's
all I'm
true.
saying.
Well, also she
she
like
got rid
father,
of
like daughter, rips the filters
filter.
off of the cigarette too.
yes.
So.
Thing is, it's great. When that happens and they puke, they're not going to necessarily want to do it too fast, too quickly again, are they?
True.
But she gets sick, and this is the first time we see Gwen kind of jealous of Anne, because Anne goes and she like right away is like, I have it. Like,
Do you think it was jealous or more just like, hell no, step back, girlfriend. This is my role.
I think that is jealousy.
Do you?
A little
I
bit.
think it's like
Yeah.
laying the law.
Like I'm like you
stand
can
back.
be there to have fun with her. You can be there to
Be her
do
sister.
the hair and like
Okay,
you know
but
all
other
that.
jobs
But
are
when it
mine.
comes to like the serious things, like no.
Yeah.
I think it was also like a weird thing for maybe because Anne felt that she could because Anne gave her Gwen gave her the go ahead from the hair.
Yeah, it was like you can be there for like the friend moments, but this is a mom moment.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm stepping in now. And also she knows that Bob's not going to do anything. So
True.
it's like she knows that it's on her or his like child bride. So
Child bride.
she steps in.
And then from here we see where Nicole tells her mom like this is what I did, and then her mom gets upset. Like Gwen is like this isn't like you, and this is when we have our little fight about there's nothing for me to do here, and basically said Joan's kids didn't have to come, and she's like they lost their mother, and so we get to like really what's going on, and I feel like the underlying thing of this whole episode, which is the fear of loss, and from a kid standpoint, it's like I don't really understand.
Yeah, because that's a good point. Because I mean, like different types of, I mean, you know, while we'll get into it later with the actual shows and everything, but you know, Bob's going through figuring out like he's scared of losing things if he doesn't jump on them right now. Gwen's scared of losing it because she's not sure when she's going to be able to continue dancing until to be able to do Chicago. You know, like there's the actual loss of Joan and what everyone's feeling on those levels. So yeah, Bri, that's deep.
That's what I do. I take a lighthearted moment and I go there.
Whoa, I'm all with you, girl.
You know who else is all here with us? AfterBuzz TV fans, and I think Kim has something she wants to shout out
I
to you guys.
absolutely do. Thank you so much. So, hey guys, before we move on to our next topic, we just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you for making us the ESPN of TV talk. For us to continue to grow, though, we could use your help. Would be very awesome. If you're on YouTube right now, if you can hit that thumbs up button and subscribe, just like Miss Amy's doing here. And if you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating. That would be awesome. But no matter where you are, leave us a comment so that you can get involved in the conversation. Bri will shout you out and we can engage you. That would be awesome. Being part of AfterBuzz TV has meant so much to all of us, and we truly appreciate you supporting us and doing what we love, because we really do love it. Don't forget to tell your friends, and please keep enjoying all of our shows. We have many in all the different genres: competition, reality, sci-fi, The list goes on.
If you can think of it, we probably cover it.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you. Jazz, you're always in the chat. You're helping us out. She's she commented out, and I know you're going to bring it probably up later in our news and gossip section, but she put out the, I'm sorry, I'm saying she, but it could be a boy as well, so I'm sorry if I assumed something right there, but they're always in here saying that what Ron's real name was as well, but I'm sure we're getting to that a little bit later, so all the rest of you can just hang out for a bit.
Cool.
Jazz just said, I thought it was interesting that Paddy didn't want him to do the Lenny movie. Yeah, and we're going to get all about Lenny in Chicago a little bit later as well, and the whole where Ann is and Paddy are with Ron and his mental state
of mind.
So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you. So let's get into this mental hospital that he was in and how short of a time we actually find out that he was there. So we find out very early on from Nicole, because we open up the episode actually in the mental hospital with Gwen talking to him and him just being out of it.
Yeah. And if he was there for a week, when he was that out of it, he was only there a week, right?
Yeah,
That's what
6 days.
Yeah, like, how can he be that screwed up and then that okay? I mean, obviously we're seeing him 7 weeks afterwards at the cabin. But there's a couple things going on for me here. It's like, A, is it an example of those that go to mental homes become worse when they're in there and don't have a time to heal because they're around that craziness, and when they actually leave, they are able to get better, to get back into their own life and environment? Because for him to go from where he was to where he is now, there's a lot that needs to happen for his state of mind. And in my family, I've had a background where members of my family have actually had to go to mental institutions, not kidding. The depression and anxiety thing that has run in my family. And I've been there to those myself, and they're not places you want to hang out. Because I think mental homes actually make you more mental if you're in there. I'm not kidding. Like, just being around the screams and the craziness, it's going to keep someone awful and crazy and screwed up. So it's actually good that he got out as fast as he did, to hence where he is now, I think, 7 weeks later, like a normal human being functioning again. That was deep, but that's what I have to say about that.
Well, I think part of it is the drugs that he's on when he's in the mental institution is keeping him in that kind of sedated state. And we find out very shortly after that he was on lithium. He went off of it.
Good on him.
We found out that, he's been telling all of his friends that they said I had a clean bill of health and they let me go, but really we know that he didn't. He begged Gwen,
which is brilliant. She's such a good actress. Telltales.
Yeah, to just say he was there for research and he wasn't really there because he was wanting to kill
creative
himself.
genius.
No matter what, she's always helping him.
She is. She's amazing.
Whether it's on a choreography thing, she's always there.
Who needs to pay her for her services? Just whatever, everything she does.
And then we also find out that they wanted him to stay at least a month, and that they wanted him to take a year off of work.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Which every single thing they want him to do, he's not doing. He's not staying on the medication. He's not staying in the facility, and he's not stopping working.
Yeah.
He's working on something at this very
I have to
moment.
say I understand and I can relate. Can you imagine if you're that successful, you've just done the Triple Crown and you're on your high of your life, career-wise, it would be a career suicide to stop. Wow. I mean, obviously you can always come back, but it makes sense to me. I mean, I wouldn't want to
Well, it's also
either.
if you're that used to working. Like, I was put on bed rest for 3 days once, and I was going stir crazy. Like, I can't imagine, 1 year of, don't do anything.
And even Paddy mentioned it, too, of just, he's like, listen, I get it. You're just coming off of an Oscar. You're worried if you don't jump right into another project right away, people are going to forget about you or things like that. And, of course, that's, Fosse's whole thing. That's so much a part of his psyche.
Possibly true, though, as well. Because you imagine if they find out that he's been in a mental home and then he's out of the business for a year, people are going to ask questions.
And, it's not like nowadays where people are a little more forgiving in that area.
Yeah,
This was the 70s where mental health wasn't
talked about.
Talked
down.
Yeah.
But the person that's really worried is Ann. So his new girlfriend, she is so worried about him because she wants him to take the time off. She doesn't want him to overwork himself. She wants him to stay at home and get better. And she doesn't want to deal with this craziness that he has going on.
Do you know what's weird? I sat there thinking while I was watching this, Paddy, Ann, Gwen, everyone's so concerned about him, and he doesn't deserve their concern. I think the way he's been such a prank for so long, and then all these people looking out for him sincerely, I don't think he deserves that. Do you think he deserves that amount of care and attention and that sounds awful and love when he's such a you know what? But then on the flip side, if I was him, I'd be really frustrated and annoyed. Like, back off, you lot. It's my life. I'm gonna live it the way I want to. Appreciate it, but stop telling me what to do. So in a way, it would make him even more crazy because everyone's telling him what to do.
I think that was just so much a part of his pull, though. He had such like a gravitational pull to everyone around him, whether it was like in an actual romantic way or just as a friend. Like, they all fully acknowledge that he's just a little shit. Like, he is the worst, but there's something that they just can't escape.
They all need him in a way.
Well, I think also when you love someone too, regardless like how much they upset you and how much they do that really frustrates you, it's hard to just cut that tie completely and to not care.
Or is it more of like a control thing insofar as people are telling him what to do because that's the way they want him to be because that'll make them feel better?
I don't know.
Because Anne, she wants a relationship with him. She probably wants more time with him, doesn't want him to be sick and go back to things. So that's hers. Gwen wants him to stop doing what he's doing so she can focus on Chicago. Paddy might have a genuine interest, maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of because that's an interesting point because everyone really does have their own self-serving reason, but then also their own personal connection to him is just a human being and a friend or an ex or, you know, whatever it is. Yeah. But that's where I found like this such a great storyline with Anne possibly being the purest of them all. Yeah. But still kind of trying to figure it out at the same time. So her dynamic with Gwen while she's trying to figure that out is just I think Anne was actually the standout of the episode for me for that reason.
Yeah, I think with Anne, it's right off the bat, I'm a little worried about her being in this relationship with him because she doesn't seem ready for this kind of a relationship. And she says it over and over again about how worried she is, and it's like we've seen what happens when you put that much devotion and that much time and effort into someone like Bob Fosse because you're not going to get much in return. And we're going to talk about the whole blow up with Gwen with that whole basically saying that in just a minute. But I really want to get to the point of when we have afterwards where Anne's very much, I don't know if I can handle this, and Gwen's basically telling her, you know what, you should be there for him, you should do all this, it's going to be, like, you're going to have to put up with it a lot, and she's like, but you're going to be a star, he'll help you.
I loved the way that scene was written. It was so, like, delicately spoken, but she had so many, like, good points in there. And like you said, like, it's, you know, sure, you may get the love, you may get a child, you may get these things, but also you get Lola, you get Roxy, you know, mentioning all those things. And I think the greatest part of that whole conversation, though, was when Gwen said, you learned to live with it, and she just goes, you didn't. And you're just like, oh, damn.
It's just weighing up priorities, really, isn't it? Because that's interesting. Like, would you choose a romantic relationship like that in order for your career to prosper? Or would you rather try and go it alone and go at another avenue to make your career prosper and choose real love?
Well, and I think it shows
genuine.
Us really a little bit more depth on Gwen. Because we're always,
you know,
every episode being like, oh, poor Gwen, poor Gwen, poor
no,
Gwen.
She's smart.
But, you know, when she says these certain things and with the one with her other child, it's like you realize she also put her career above everything else.
She did. Yep.
And she also wanted success more than anything else. So I think with her, she was willing to put up with that. And I think she doesn't want to have to put up with it anymore. She still wants the benefits out of it, but she doesn't want to have to put up with it anymore, which is why I think she's trying to kind of almost make Anne take control over it because she doesn't want to have to worry about him. But she also knows that she will if he doesn't have someone to.
Yeah, it's good. She's just like, well, you're new. Let's have you take the burden of all this.
New girl.
I'll just do Chicago while you're dealing with
I'll
this
reap
mess.
the benefits. You deal with him cheating.
Yeah, and I mean,
and keeping him sober.
It's, you know, I feel like a lot of other directors and choreographers and people could very easily. It's Gwen Verdon could have given her amazing things, but the way that they worked together, it was like he gave her these roles to be able to play with, but then he also gave her that freedom of working alongside of him to say, like, I don't like this, or I do like this, or let's try that.
Well, let's get right into that whole thing, because the main part of Gwen in this episode was her almost manipulating a lot of different situations to try to get her way, because she wants Chicago. She wants it above anything else, it feels like, at this point. And she realizes he's doing Lenny. And she's like, oh, I thought you weren't. I thought that was further down the bracket. And then she finds out Dustin Hoffman's involved. She's like, oh, I thought you were still writing it. And, you know, we little by little are getting like, no, he's doing Lenny over Chicago. And she's just not happy about it. So she's pounding in on every little insecurity she could with him. She's becoming brutal in this episode. She's like, oh, can you even do something that's not a musical? I don't think you have the fan base for that. No one's going to like that. Are the Liza with a Z people going to watch this? No.
Which is so interesting because he had just come off of doing the same thing to her when she was like, I'm doing just a straight play.
Yeah, totally. Good point. Yeah. She, I think it's about time. I think she's should be allowed in this instance because she's done so much for him. So in that way, it's fine. And the way that she does it is so nice. She's so nice about it. It's not like she's mean. Yeah, I think so.
I didn't see it as very nice at all.
I think it's just because she's doing it in her Broadway voice.
Like she's saying it. I feel like it's like when someone compliments you, but really they're not complimenting you. Like they're like, oh, you look good today. Like, but like,
maybe it's a cultural thing because in New Zealand we'd be like, you suck, blah, 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 move on.
Yeah, I
We
feel
just
like it's
say
like
it
one
as
of
it
those
is.
things like I'm slapping you, but I'm doing it through a compliment. It's almost like that feeling.
Yeah,
it's like
ruin it.
passive aggressive, but like
It
in
is
Broadway
passive-aggressive.
sing-songy voice too, so it
Oh,
makes
well,
it
it
even
worked
more.
for me, so she wants to use it on me. I'm like, okay, that's good.
But she's being very relentless about this, and it basically gets him to the breaking point where he's like, I never want to do Chicago. And she breaks.
But she works out the one thing that's going to turn him on that too. It's the Hal thing, isn't it? When she says, I've spoken to Hal about directing instead. And that's what kills him, and that's what makes him go, boom, actually.
But before even all of that, she has this big blow up at him in front of Anne where she's like, well, this is the man you're going to be with. He's going to lie to you and do whatever he wants and promise you things, but really he's never going to deliver.
Yeah, but good on her. I mean, the amount of time she's put up with his crap.
No, I mean, I'm fine with her saying all of this. The only thing, I just feel so bad for everybody else in the room because it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But do you think it is because they all know them so well? I think, and they're always, they know
Even
what they're
people
like.
even people I know, like if they start fighting, I'm like,
Where do I go?
Even if you know it's coming, it doesn't
like I
make
feel like
it any
it just
less
happened
awkward.
the other day. I was like at a restaurant and two of my friends started fighting
no.
and like I was like, can I get a drink? Like me and the other person I was with were just like, oh my god. It just puts I feel like doing it in front of other people just makes it an awkward
Yeah.
situation. Even if they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, we understand.
Because especially too, I mean, I feel like they're all so close to each other. It makes it even more awkward in a way because it's not like there's a clear side, you know.
Oh,
like
that's interesting.
they're all friends. They've all worked together on different things, or you know, they all have their own different relationships.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're just
Yeah.
it's awkward.
Oh,
Yeah.
funny. I think that's funny because it's probably usually me and my husband who are fighting in front of our friends, and I haven't been on the receiving end, so I don't actually know how that feels.
You're like,
Oh,
no,
shit.
it's fine. It's
You
fine.
guys will be fine. We're just like,
Next time Kim's gonna be like, wait, should we move to another room?
yeah, should we be doing this right now? Oh,
Do you guys feel comfortable right
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Are you okay
And they're
with this?
like not even looking at you.
If Bob
But
Fosse
they're
and
not
Gwen Verdon
looking-
taught us
But I
anything.
also
thing.
feel like it's good for Anne because I feel like she needed to hear that. Like, because she has to know the kind of person she's going to be with. She can't think, but I think, and she knew kind of.
And that's where it's interesting with Anne because she's someone who, yes, Bob does see her differently than a lot of his other flings. Like Patty even mentioned, like Gwen is starting to see, and it's because she's smarter, because she gave him a hard time initially. But that's
Played hard
also
to get.
why she's not going to be able to stick around because she's too smart for it.
Yeah, and, Gwen even mentions that to her. She's like, Nicole has been around you. None other that I know of, and like his last serious person never got to meet Nicole, never got to speak to Nicole, and you're out here playing with Nicole, doing her hair, having a friendship with her. He obviously trusts you. So you're different. But how long does different stay different?
Yeah.
Before the same old patterns and the same old things come back up. Like, Anne's in a very difficult position right now, and
She doesn't have to be there though. It's her choice.
it is her choice.
So she's chosen yes. So tough. Luck to her.
And then
She stays.
we get to the scene where it's almost like a makeup sex scene with Gwen and Bob.
Wow.
Where they're fighting 1 minute about the Chicago thing, and Gwen kind of like lets him know what she's really like, because he's like, why can't I wait a year or two? And she's like, because I don't know if you're alive in a year or two. And he's like, you don't know if you can dance. She was like, I don't.
Good point. That's why I want it now.
Yeah, and she's
Yeah.
like, regardless, I don't know what things are going to happen in the next 2 years, and I want this.
Yeah, that's a long time to put things off. That if they were thinking back in the day, like, oh, give that one another year. I mean, I know Broadway and stuff takes years to create, right, and produce it. But yeah, so much can happen in that time frame. I'm surprised he's not jumping on it quicker.
I think in his head he's looking like that opportunity's still going to be there. Like, I'm Bob Fosse,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
not looking at it until this time that, she's getting older too.
Yeah, I think kind of hit him because I think until then it was just like, no, I want to do something different. I have something to prove because that's so much of his person too. Just like I need to prove something. I can do something different. This Lenny, I feel like he's almost trying to pitch himself on Lenny this entire episode.
I think Lenny, and I think the reason some of them are so concerned with it is that Lenny represents himself.
Yeah,
a tormented artist who uses, in Lenny's case, comedy. In Fosse's case, it's musical theater and showcasing and lightheartedness to get away from the depressing parts. But he wants to focus on the depressing parts, and I think everyone's like, you just went down this road. Is that something you really want to focus on? Like, shouldn't you focus on something lighthearted for a little bit?
See, that's really interesting because I see that as like, that's actually probably a good idea for him to explore what he went through and to put it on stage. And in a way, maybe that was his way of bringing mental health to the forefront for that generation, which we didn't have a lot of. So I think that would have been actually quite cool.
We see it again, in a little bit of when they're doing the whole like virginity loss storyline, and he tells his, and everyone's like, oh, like how lucky are you? But really,
That's
he was basically molested or raped or what.
Which I think Ron even
Yes,
kind of
Ron
like, yeah,
got
he's just
that.
kind of looking like, why is
wrong.
everyone so impressed with the story?
Yeah.
And the other guys are like, you got 2 girls in one go on your first try.
Yeah. But is
Good
that
for
just
you,
guy
man.
talk, like
Yeah.
trying to be macho versus
Well, I think it's
thinking,
how
what?
Bob has told it. Bob has told it like it's a great thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if maybe it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
And so, like, you follow suit. Like, oh, this person thinks it's great. Like,
Yeah.
we've been
Yeah.
taught our whole lives getting women is great.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, did he really want that
Because
at
it's
13?
13, yeah.
Like, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, the way they're portraying it in this show is that he did not really want it, but he's going to make that joke. He's going to make that jest to, basically he's Lenny. He's going to use comedy to mask everything.
Where I think, and that's where Gwen's more genuine concern on it comes through at the end when she says that. Because again, she has her own self-serving reasons of wanting to be able to do Chicago while she can still dance it, but she still knows Bob and knows the dark places that he'll go to when he dives into something
And up
like
until that point, it has seemed like Gwen is just doing it for selfish reasons,
Yeah.
and then that comes out.
Yeah.
But regardless, he decides he's going to do both of these things at the same time. Patty says, "Are you going to?" Oh, sorry, I just realized that I said the 2 girls at the same time and these 2 things at the same time. Sorry, it was a little place my brain went. No, but he's going to do both Lenny and Chicago at the same time. And Patty says, "Is that going to kill you?" And he's like, "I don't know. Basically, let's see." And then we get the 13 months until he has a heart attack.
Yeah. When I saw that come up, I was just like, oh man, well played.
I was like,
Well played.
Isn't it interesting how at times we as humans are prepared to test the limits of where we can go before we literally fail or fall on our face, i.e. heart attack? Because sometimes you don't actually know the boundaries of what you're capable of, and especially in this industry, people have got such insane busy schedules. So I'm not surprised he said we'll see, because until you push the boundaries, you don't know where to stop or what your limits are, do you?
it's also like until you, exactly. You said like until you stop
Yeah.
and like feel everything that's happening.
Yeah, that's true. Do you guys notice? When like you're super busy and you've got so much going on, you're working on adrenaline, and it is when you stop, when you have
You're
a
like, "Oh,
rest,
I'm
that's when
tired."
you get sick or you get tired because your body's like, thank God that's over. A recap.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
It is also weird watching something like watching him fight Chicago so much when you're like, he ends up doing it.
Yeah. But
Like it's just like a weird thing to be like, why are we doing all this? You're gonna do it.
You're like,
but it's
come on.
interesting
we know
to
what
see
happens, Bob.
how
Come
much
on.
he didn't want to when that was someone he's
But I
most
think that's the
famous
whole
for.
thing is that, Gwen has done so many things for him when she didn't want to, and like this is the one time it seems like he did something for her when he didn't want to. And it's
Yet
just something
he
that made him the most famous.
Is the most famous from
Yeah.
it, which is interesting.
So it's so funny, yeah, looking at something like this that's historical, but then also and just being like, oh yeah, why this whole episode fighting someone to do Chicago.
Yeah. But honestly, his turning point, I don't know if you guys saw it differently, but for me, it was as soon as she said to him, Hal, I'll talk to Hal about directing it, that's when he got jealous and he was like, oh, no, you won't. No, you won't. "Oh, okay, I'll do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't for
Well,
her.
I mean, I think it was partly for her. I think like also that in that conversation he noticed that she really wanted this.
Do you reckon? Okay.
I think a little bit. I have to look at it that way, I think.
Yeah, there is that tiny part. I think it was both, and I don't think he would take it on when he's going to be planning on doing Lenny as well. if there wasn't some sort of extra thing in it outside of just like, oh, well, yeah, I'll do it. Like, I think he needed that extra push from her on top of, like the jealousy may have been like an impulse thing, but I think like at the core it was still like, well, I guess I have to do something nice for her finally.
But that kind of wraps out our episode. So let's get into our special segment where we're going to break down, what really happened and what was fictionalized. Amy, you want to take us away on that?
I do not.
Okay.
You convinced me. you're the Gwen to my Bobby.
Oh dear.
So I thought that, because we're talking a lot about Chicago in this one, I found that this was interesting at slate.com. Just a little bit about the background of the timeline of Chicago and how this worked, because obviously a big part of this episode was Gwen, just agonizing over the fact that she took so long to get the rights, which is accurate, that she had to go through quite a bit. So this said, Verdon first had the idea of adapting the play into a musical after she read it in the 1960s. Some accounts, though, have her wanting to do it since seeing Roxy Hart on television in the 50s. Recognizing that the story's combination of tawdry glamour and deep cynicism with the characters from the seedier side of showbiz was perfect for Fosse, while she, already in her 40s, knew a great part when she saw one. But she hit an immovable object in the form of Watkins, who by then had become a born-again Christian and refused to sell Verdon the rights because she believed the play glorified a sinful lifestyle. However, after Watkins' death in 1969, the couple and producer Richard Fryer were able to finally buy the rights from Watkins' estate and got to work with the cabaret musical team of John Kander and Fred Ebb. So I thought that was interesting because obviously there's that big line of her just being like, just like you said, Bri, just breaking down and being like, I wish you would have told me this 10 years ago. And so this is kind of breaking down the timeline a little bit more, that yes, it was true that this was kind of like this was her baby in a sense for a long time, of trying to figure out how to get the rights and how to be able to get this project off the ground. So I mean, from the beginning of her having to deal with getting the rights from the this woman, then from the estate, and then going through having to convince Bob to do it too. It was, I mean, from beginning to end, this was all Gwen Verdon.
God. So it makes even more sense as to why she was so manipulative, and what I thought was a nice way you guys didn't. If that was me and he'd known about that I wanted to do that for 10 years, I would have packed the biggest tanty in the room with all my friends to get that, because I think the way she did it was lovely then. She was so kind, and I'm sorry.
No, as a fan, I was like loving it. I was like, yes, go, girl.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it wasn't enough. She could have done
There was
more.
just like the little part of me that I was like, oh, I'm glad I'm not in that room.
Yeah. But yeah, good on her for, I mean, she went after it from every angle. So
Yeah. I mean, she was also like him. If she wants something, she went after it.
yeah.
Let's get into some quick news and gossip before we wrap out here. Kim, you want to let us know what's up?
Cool. So this is, I don't even know if this is fully news, but I was just doing some research around with the characters, etc., and wanted to know a little bit more about Paddy from Ireland. He's not from Ireland, but Paddy Chayefsky. So he was apparently, you know how he's depicted in the show as like his Bob's like best friend, buddy, really nice guy, writer, etc. So apparently in real life he wasn't. Apparently they actually thinged him the angriest man in the movies. So he apparently was actually hot and fiery in temper and not very nice at all. And a random thing, so after Fosse's heart attack that's about to happen in whatever week's time, apparently after that the two of them had a bet of who was going to die first. And if Chayefsky died first, Fosse was going to have to do a soft shoe shuffle tap dance at his funeral. And if Fosse died first, then Chayefsky was going to have to do a tedious eulogy. And so obviously, well not obviously, but if you don't know, Chayefsky died first in 1981, and so Fosse did a soft shoe shuffle at his funeral.
Oh,
Random facts.
Whoa, let's start there. And that is Norman Leo Butts, who plays Paddy in the show, who is also a Broadway actor who won a Tony Award for Catch Me If You Can. So little fact there for you guys. But thank you so much for that, Kim. That was really interesting. We unfortunately are running out of time, so we are not going to be able to make it to predictions today. But this was such a meaty episode, we had to discuss it all. So we'll just leave you on that, and we'll just see what happens next week. I do want to shout out everyone in the chat. Thank you, Jazz, for always being with us, and everyone that's watching that's not commenting along. Thank you guys as well, and everybody that watches afterwards. We have gotten some 5-star reviews on our iTunes, but unfortunately we have no comments from you guys. So I can't shout you out. But if you want to go ahead and leave a comment, if you listen to this on iTunes and you wanted to give us that 5-star rating, please do that, and I will shout you out here. But I don't have your name, unfortunately, if you just gave the review and no actual typing.
So many logistics.
But I do want to shout just 3 people from last week that were in our comment section after we ended our show. I cannot pronounce your name, but XPONOSZAXAPATOS. Thank you so much. Dina Buchanan and Diane Berg, thank you guys so much for leaving comments from us for last week and for watching us. We really appreciate you. Until next week, guys, where can they find you?
Yes, everyone, you can find me on all my social media at Kim Davey Live.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Amy Maestri.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Bri, BRI_Phipps, PHIPPS. And I just also wanted to shout out Amy Motorhouse, who just chimed in our chat. So thank you as well. We will see you all next week.
Awesome.
Bye guys.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.